Blood-red emergency lights pulsed through the command center as Admiral Helena Reyes gripped the edge of the tactical display. The holographic projection showed hundreds of alien vessels entering Earth's atmosphere, sleek, obsidian ships that resembled massive manta rays. They moved with an eerie, fluid grace that no human craft could match. "Status report," she barked, her voice steady despite the chaos erupting around her. Lieutenant Commander Jackson's fingers flew across his console. "Orbital defenses are down. Beijing, London, and Nairobi have gone dark. The lunar colony isn't responding." Helena closed her eyes for one painful second. 8 billion lives under her protection. The weight of that responsibility had never felt heavier. "They didn't even send a message," whispered Communications Officer Chen. "No demands, no declaration of war. Nothing." Helena's eyes snapped open. "Then we'll give them our answer." She straightened her uniform and faced the dozen officers awaiting her command. Each face reflected the same grim determination. Humanity would not go quietly. "Initiate Protocol Lazarus," she ordered. "Authorization Reyes Alpha 709. A stunned silence fell over the room. "Admiral," Jackson said carefully, "Protocol Lazarus has never been tested outside of simulations. The theoretical consequences are better than extinction." Helena cut him off. "Execute the order." As Jackson's trembling fingers entered the command sequence, Helena turned to the viewport. Beyond the reinforced glass of the underground facility, she could see the verdant forests of Montana. Soon, those trees would burn, but from their ashes, humanity would rise again. The console chimed, indicating the transmission of the Protocol Lazarus command. There was no going back now. "May God forgive us," Helena whispered, "because the stars never will." Kirax, Supreme Commander of the Hegemony's 9th Expeditionary Fleet, watched with satisfaction as his ships decimated the primitive defenses of the human homeworld. The species had shown promise, advancing from basic flight to rudimentary space travel in mere centuries, but their potential made them dangerous. The Galactic Hegemony had long ago determined that any species capable of faster-than-light travel must either join as vassals or face preemptive eradication. Supreme Commander, his second-in-command, Zura, called from her station. "We're detecting unusual energy readings from multiple locations on the planet's surface." Kirax dismissed her concern with a flick of his upper appendage. Their nuclear capabilities were outlined in the assessment briefing. "Desperation tactics. Our shields will hold." "This signature doesn't match known human nuclear technology," Zura insisted, her voice betraying rare uncertainty. "The pattern resembles. It almost resembles precursor energy matrices." Kirax's 4 eyes widened slightly, the only indication of his surprise. The precursors were merely legends, a supposedly ancient race that had vanished millions of years before the hegemony arose. Stories told by primitive species to explain artifacts they couldn't understand. "Impossible," he stated. "Continue the invasion protocol. Primary population centers first, then." An alarm blared through the command chamber, interrupting his order. "Energy surge," Zura shouted. "Magnitude beyond scale. It's coming from." The view screen showed a blinding flash from the planet's surface, and Kirax felt a sensation he hadn't experienced in his 300 cycles of life. Fear. ##Partai. The Awakening. Dr. Eliza Shepard had spent 15 years studying the artifact found buried beneath the Antarctic ice. 15 years of being called crazy by her peers. 15 years of government funding mysteriously appearing despite her increasingly outlandish theories. Now, as she activated the device using the sequence she'd decoded from its crystalline surface, she finally understood why. The Pentagon had known all along. They'd been preparing for this day. Power output stable at 200% capacity, her assistant Marcus reported, his voice edged with awe. "Doctor, this violates every law of thermodynamics." Eliza barely heard him. Her attention was fixed on the artifact. A metallic dodecahedron, roughly the size of a beach ball, now hovering 3 feet above its containment chamber. Symbols etched into its surface glowed with a blue-white light so intense it hurt to look at directly. "It's not a weapon," she murmured, half to herself. "It's a key." As if responding to her words, the artifact's glow intensified. The symbols began to shift and reposition themselves across its surface, forming new patterns, new meanings. A beam of light shot from the artifact to Elisa's forehead. She gasped but remained standing as information flooded her consciousness. Knowledge never meant for a human mind. Marcus lunged forward. "Dr. Shepard." "Stay back," she commanded, her voice somehow different, deeper, resonant with authority. "I understand now. I see what we have to do." Above them, through the reinforced glass ceiling of the underground laboratory, they could see flashes of light as alien weapons bombarded the defensive shields that had snapped into place around key locations worldwide. Shields powered by technology no human had invented. Eliza turned to Marcus, her eyes now glowing with the same blue-white light as the artifact. "Humanity was never alone," she said. "We were placed here, protected, guided. We're their descendants, their inheritors." A single tear ran down her cheek. "And now we have to claim our birthright." In the ancient chamber beneath the Mariana Trench, Captain Wei Chen and his small team of Special Forces operatives stared in disbelief at what they had found. "It was supposed to be a submarine," Lieutenant Rivera whispered. "How is this possible?" Before them stood an enormous structure of impossible geometry, a vessel larger than an aircraft carrier, untouched by the millions of years it had spent underwater. Its hull was composed of a material that seemed to shift between solid metal and translucent crystal, revealing glimpses of machinery beyond human comprehension. Wei checked the classified orders that had sent his team into the deepest part of the ocean while aliens attacked the surface. The holographic display from his wrist computer showed the activation sequence they were meant to initiate. "Whether we understand it or not doesn't matter," he said firmly. "Admiral Reyes trusted us with this mission. We're the only team that can reach this location in time." He approached what appeared to be a control interface, a raised platform with handprint outlines clearly meant for beings with 5 fingers, so similar to human hands, yet subtly different. "Sir," Rivera objected, "we have no idea what this will do. What if we do nothing?" Wei countered, "Every minute we hesitate, thousands die up there." Without further debate, he placed his hand on the interface. The entire chamber hummed to life. Lines of light raced along the walls, the floor, the ceiling, converging on the massive vessel. Wei felt a presence brush against his mind. Ancient, patient, and incredibly powerful. "Asterisk, you have come, asterisk," a voice that wasn't a voice seemed to say. Asterisk at last, asterisk. Wei couldn't tell if everyone heard it or if it spoke to him alone. "We need help," he said simply. "Our world is under attack." Asterisk, yes. "The children always come when they face the fire. It is time for you to remember who you are, asterisk." The chamber began to flood, not with water, but with a silvery liquid that rose rapidly around them. Instead of panicking, Wei felt an odd sense of calm. This was supposed to happen. "Trust it," he told his team as the liquid reached their chests. "This is why we're here." The silver fluid covered them completely, filling lungs that no longer needed air. In the darkness behind his closed eyelids, Wei saw stars, constellations from a sky that was not Earth's. He saw cities spanning entire planets, ships that sailed between suns, and beings of light and purpose who looked upon infant humanity with hope. And he understood, as Dr. Shepard had thousands of miles away, that Earth had never been defenseless. It had been waiting. ## part II. The COUNTERSTRIK. Grand Counselor Telix of the Galactic Hegemony's High Command stared at the incoming reports with mounting horror. The Ninth Fleet, one of the most powerful armadas ever assembled, had gone silent. All 23,000 ships, nearly 1 million of the hegemony's finest warriors. "This cannot be possible," he hissed, his scales flushing a deep purple with rage. These humans were pre-FTL primitives. The assessment team confirmed it. Strategic Director Vereen approached cautiously. The last transmission from Supreme Commander Kirax mentioned energy signatures consistent with precursor technology. Myths and legends. Telix slammed his fist on the crystalline table. Are you suggesting a species that can barely reach their own moon somehow wields the power of beings that supposedly predated our entire civilization? I am suggesting, Vereen said carefully, that we may have gravely miscalculated. A junior communications officer rushed into the chamber, breaking all protocols of proper deference. Grand Counselor, we've detected a massive object emerging from the human homeworld's largest ocean. The main view screen activated, showing a vessel of impossible size rising from Earth's Pacific Ocean. It dwarfed any ship in the hegemony's fleet, its surface rippling with patterns of light that hurt to look at directly. Ancestors preserve us, Vereen whispered. The humans have awakened a precursor warship. Before Telix could respond, another alert sounded. Spatial anomaly detected, called the sensor officer. Something's coming through. The space before them seemed to fold, creating a tunnel of swirling energy. From within emerged a fleet of ships unlike any the hegemony had ever encountered. They moved with impossible grace, their hulls composed of what looked like living metal that flowed and reformed as they advanced. At their center was a vessel of such massive proportions that it defied comprehension, a ship that could swallow worlds. We are receiving a transmission, the communications officer reported, voice quavering, audio and visual. Put it through, Telix ordered, straightening his posture. Whatever these humans had discovered, he would face it with the dignity befitting his station. The view screen shifted to show the bridge of the massive vessel. Telix expected to see the humans, perhaps aided by some unknown ally. Instead, he found himself looking at a being composed of swirling light and geometric patterns that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the screen could properly display. Beside this impossible entity stood a human female, her eyes glowing with the same energy that composed the being beside her. I am Dr. Eliza Shepard, the human said, her voice overlaid with harmonics that made Telix's inner ears ache. Awakened guardian of Earth and speaker for the precursor conclave. The light being beside her shifted, and somehow Telix knew it was studying him personally. The species you know as humans are not what they appear to be, Dr. Shepard continued. Earth was established as a preservation world, a place where the essence of precursor consciousness could be encoded into biological form, hidden from those who sought to destroy us. We have slept within human DNA for millions of years, waiting for the conditions that would trigger our awakening. She smiled, the expression both serene and terrifying. Your unprovoked attack on Earth was that trigger. You have not found a primitive species to conquer. You have awakened the architects of this galaxy. Telix felt his body going numb with shock. Impossible, he managed to say. The precursors are a myth, a story. All myths contain truth, Grand Counselor, Dr. Shepard replied. The precursors didn't vanish. We transformed. We seeded ourselves across thousands of worlds in biological forms, becoming part of each planet's evolutionary journey. Earth is merely the first to complete the cycle of remembrance. The being of light beside her shifted again, and this time it spoke, its voice bypassing Telix's ears and resonating directly in his mind. Asterisk, your AEGEMONY AHAs COMMITEDACTs of GENOCIDE a gay inst Scifi in species with NTE cast millennium. Each weighs a PRCURSO or C world. Each DAV HASB and RECO or DED asterisk. What do you want? Telix demanded, fighting to keep his voice steady. Justice, Dr. Shepard answered simply. And reformation. The galactic hegemony will be dismantled. Your subject worlds will be freed. Those responsible for policies of extinction will face judgment. You cannot dictate terms to the hegemony. Telex snarled, though he knew his words were empty. We control 3,000 star systems. We have dominated this galaxy for 10,000 cycles. And we shaped the stars themselves. Dr. Shepard replied calmly. The choice before you is simple, Grand Counselor. Accept our terms, or watch as we awaken our kindred on every world within your reach. The humans you so casually sought to eradicate are but a fraction of what we can become. ##part IV. The Jugiji end. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so full. Representatives from all hegemony worlds and client states crowded the vast chamber, their confused murmurs creating a susurrus that filled the space like static. In the center of the hall, where accused criminals typically stood to receive judgment, stood the 7 members of the Hegemony High Command. Grand Counselor Telex's scales had faded to a pale gray, the color of profound shame in his species. Opposite them, the human delegation seemed absurdly small. Admiral Helena Reyes, Dr. Eliza Shepard, Captain Wei Chen, and 3 other humans who had undergone the awakening. Behind them, visible through the hall's transparent dome, hovered the massive precursor vessel, a silent reminder of the power now at humanity's command. The ancient ceremonial chimes rang, signaling the beginning of the proceedings. The hall fell silent. Admiral Reyes stepped forward, her weathered face solemn. My ancestors, my true ancestors, believed in preservation, not destruction. Dr. Shepard continued. Despite what you have done, we will not answer genocide with genocide. A ripple of surprise moved through the assembly. Captain Wei stepped forward. Unlike Dr. Shepard, whose transformation was subtle, Wei's had altered him more visibly. His skin now had a faint metallic sheen, and patterns of light occasionally rippled beneath it. The precursor protocol awakened within us offers 2 paths forward, he said. Extinction of the aggressors, or rehabilitation. We choose the latter. From within his body, literally emerging from his chest in a display that caused many in the assembly to cry out in alarm, Wei produced a crystalline sphere that hovered before him. This is the mnemonic sphere, he explained. It contains the complete historical record of the precursor civilization, their rise, their accomplishments, and the decision they made to seed themselves throughout the galaxy rather than continue as a single dominant power. He gestured, and the sphere floated to the center of the hall, where it expanded to nearly 20 feet in diameter. Every member species of the hegemony will receive this knowledge, Admiral Reyes declared, not as a punishment, but as an inheritance. The precursors believe that knowledge shared leads to understanding, and understanding to peace. Grand Counselor Telex found his voice at last. And the High Command. What is our fate? Dr. Shepard approached him, her expression neither vengeful nor pitying. You 7 will undergo the most complete awakening, she said quietly. Your minds will be joined with precursor consciousness. You will remember not only your current lives, but the thousands you have lived before, including those spent as species your hegemony later eradicated. Telex's scales paled further. That would be unbearable. It will be justice, Dr. Shepard replied, to feel the deaths you've caused, to understand the magnitude of what was lost, and then, perhaps, to help rebuild. Admiral Reyes addressed the wider assembly once more. The age of the hegemony is over. In its place, we propose a new galactic concord, a union of equals, guided by shared knowledge and mutual protection. She gestured to the human delegation beside her. Earth will not rule over you. We will walk with you. The precursor awakening has shown us a greater truth. The galaxy thrives through diversity, not conformity. As her words echoed through the hall, the massive view screen displayed a new image. Hundreds of worlds, each marked with the distinctive energy signature of dormant precursor technology. And know this, Captain Wei added, his voice carrying an unmistakable warning beneath its diplomatic tone. Earth was only the first. On each of these worlds, the awakening has begun. Any attempt to maintain the old order by force will be met with powers you cannot comprehend. The assembly erupted in a cacophony of voices, some afraid, Some angry, many simply overwhelmed by the fundamental reshaping of everything they had known. Through it all, Dr. Shepard stood calmly, the ancient consciousness within her observing a pattern that had played out countless times across the eons. Empires rose and fell. Species evolved and transformed. But the cosmos continued its great dance, and now humanity would take its true place in that eternal choreography. Part G. The Transformation. 1 year after the failed invasion of Earth, Lieutenant Commander Jackson found himself aboard the precursor vessel Remembrance staring out at the stars with new eyes. Literally new. His original brown eyes had been replaced with organs that could perceive spectrums of light no human had ever witnessed before. The changes weren't limited to his eyes. Throughout his body, precursor technology had integrated with his human cells, creating a hybrid being that was neither purely human nor fully precursor. The same transformation was happening all across Earth, at different rates and to different degrees, as humanity claimed its inheritance. Still getting used to it? Admiral Rice asked, joining him at the viewport. Unlike Jackson, she had undergone only minimal physical changes, a deliberate choice, as someone needed to remain a bridge between humanity's past and its future. Every day brings something new, Jackson admitted. Yesterday, I realized I could feel the magnetic fields of the nearby star. It was like hearing a song I've always known but never consciously noticed. Helena nodded. Dr. Shepard says that's common. The precursor aspects of our new physiology connect us to the universe in ways our purely human senses never could. They stood in comfortable silence, watching as the great ship moved through the darkness between stars. Below them, on the observation deck, hundreds of diplomatic representatives from former hegemony worlds had gathered for the signing of the new Galactic Concord Charter. Did you ever imagine we'd end up here? Jackson asked softly. When you gave the order to activate Protocol Lazarus, did you have any idea what it would unleash? Helena's expression grew distant. I knew it was our only hope. The Pentagon had been preparing since we found the first artifact in 1947. Generation after generation of military leaders and scientists, keeping the secret, assembling the pieces, but even we didn't understand the full truth. She turned to face him fully. We thought we were finding weapons or technology left by some vanished alien race. We never imagined we were finding pieces of ourselves, keys to unlock what was hidden in our very DNA. Some people are still fighting the change, Jackson noted. The human purity movement grows stronger every day. Of course they are, Helena replied. Change is terrifying, especially change this fundamental. But they'll come around, eventually. The benefits are too significant to deny forever. A soft chime indicated the approach of another presence. They turned to find Captain Wei floating toward them, literally floating, as his transformation had progressed to the point where he could manipulate gravitational fields around his body. Admiral, Commander, he greeted them. The signing ceremony is about to begin. Dr. Shepard requests your presence. As they made their way to the observation deck, Jackson noticed the former Grand Counselor Telix standing apart from the other delegates. The once proud leader of the hegemony now bore the visible marks of his punishment. His scales permanently shifted to the gray of shame, and his eyes now containing the same luminous quality as Dr. Shepard's. How is he adjusting? Jackson asked quietly. As well as can be expected, Wei replied. The memories of his past lives, including those spent as species the hegemony later destroyed, have humbled him completely. He now serves as the primary advocate for reparations to worlds harmed by hegemony expansion. They took their places as Dr. Shepard stepped onto the central platform. Her transformation had progressed further than almost anyone else's, her body now a fluid blend of flesh and light that shifted subtly as she moved. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that touched something deep within every listener, regardless of species. Today marks not an ending, but a beginning, she said. The Galactic Concord represents a new approach to our shared existence, one based not on domination, but on mutual growth and understanding. She gestured, and the space above the platform filled with a holographic representation of the galaxy. But unlike any map they had seen before, this showed not just stars and planets, but flowing currents of energy connecting them, patterns of relationship and influence that transcended physical space. The precursors did not disappear, Dr. Shepard continued. They transformed. They seeded themselves throughout the cosmos, becoming part of the evolutionary journey of thousands of species. Earth was merely the first world where that seeded consciousness fully awakened. She smiled at the assembled delegates, but we will not be the last. Already, on 83 worlds throughout the former hegemony, the awakening has begun. Species you have lived alongside for centuries are discovering their own connections to the precursor legacy. A murmur ran through the crowd. This transformation is not human supremacy, Dr. Shepard emphasized. It is universal inheritance. The precursors left their legacy not to one species, but to all who could evolve to receive it. She gestured to the charter that hovered beside her, a document written in a new universal language that combined elements of precursor symbolism with contemporary galactic communication standards. This charter establishes not just peace between our worlds, but a pathway forward as we all undergo this great change. Its core principles, knowledge freely shared, diversity celebrated, and power balanced, will guide us through the transition ahead. One by one, representatives came forward to place their mark upon the charter. Some used traditional methods, a fingerprint, a seal, a genetic signature. Others employed methods unique to their species, scale impressions, pheromone markers, crystallized thought forms. As Admiral Reyes stepped forward to represent Earth, she felt the weight of history on her shoulders. Her decision to activate Protocol Lazarus had changed the course of not just human history, but galactic history. From the brink of extinction, humanity had risen to help reshape the very structure of interstellar civilization. She placed her palm on the charter, and it recognized her, both the human she had been and the hybrid being she was becoming. The document glowed briefly, acknowledging her commitment. As she stepped back, Dr. Shepard caught her eye and nodded slightly, a gesture of respect between two women who had faced impossible choices and emerged transformed. Outside the viewport, stars burned in the darkness, each possibly surrounding worlds where other seeded species might someday awaken to their own inheritance. The galaxy was entering a new age, and humanity, once nearly eradicated, would help guide the way. Admiral Reyes smiled as she took her place beside her fellow humans. They had survived. They had evolved. And now, they would thrive among the stars that had always been their birthright. #EPILGE, the horizon. 5 years after Earth's counterstrike shocked the galaxy, Dr. Eliza Shepard stood alone on the observation platform of Harmony Station, the massive space habitat that now orbited Earth as headquarters of the Galactic Concord. Her transformation had progressed to its final stage. Her body now seemed composed more of light than matter, though she could still appear fully human when she chose to. The door behind her whispered open, admitting Admiral Helena Reyes, now High Representative of Earth to the Concord Council. Helena's own transformation remained minimal. She had chosen to maintain as much of her humanity as possible, a living bridge between what humans had been and what they were becoming. "I thought I might find you here," Helena said, joining Eliza at the railing. Below them, Earth shone blue and green, remarkably unchanged from space, despite the profound transformations occurring on its surface. "The mnemonic sphere revealed something new today," Eliza said without preamble, something the precursors hid in the deepest layers of their records. Helena turned to her sharply. "Something dangerous?" "No, something wonderful." Eliza's eyes shimmered with excitement. "We've been operating under the assumption that the precursors seeded themselves throughout our galaxy as a preservation strategy, a way to ensure their consciousness would survive even if their civilization fell. That's what all the records indicated," Helena confirmed. "Yes, but it's only part of the truth." Eliza gestured, and the space between them, filled with a holographic representation of the Milky Way galaxy. Then, with another gesture, she expanded the view to show neighboring galaxies, Andromeda, Triangulum, and beyond. Tiny points of light appeared in each galaxy, thousands of them, pulsing with the distinctive energy signature of awakened precursor consciousness. They didn't just seed our galaxy, Eliza whispered. They seeded all of them. And now they're awakening, just as we did. Helena stared at the display in awe. But that would mean the precursors weren't running from something. Eliza finished for her. They were building something. A network of awakened consciousness spanning the entire local group of galaxies. She waved her hand again, and energy lines appeared, connecting the points of light across impossible distances. These connections are already forming. Quantum communications that transcend conventional spacetime. The beginnings of a galactic community beyond anything we imagined. Helena shook her head, trying to comprehend the scale of what she was seeing. Why now? After millions of years, why is this awakening happening simultaneously across multiple galaxies? Eliza smiled. That's the most beautiful part. The trigger wasn't just the attack on Earth. The trigger is the universe itself, a particular alignment of cosmic forces that occurs only once every billion years. The precursors calculated it, prepared for it, and seated themselves accordingly. She placed her hand on Helena's arm. We're not just inheritors of the precursors, Helena. We're participants in the next phase of cosmic evolution. Behind them, the door opened again, admitting Captain Wei Chen, now so transformed that he appeared almost as a living constellation, stars and nebulae swirling within a humanoid outline. The council is assembling, he said, his voice resonating on multiple frequencies simultaneously. The representatives from Andromeda have arrived. Helena's eyes widened. Already? How is that possible? Even with our most advanced FTL technology, Andromeda is over 2 million light-years away. They didn't come physically, Wei explained. They've 3 standard weeks ago. She began, her voice carrying effortlessly through the vast space. The hegemony launched an unprovoked attack on Earth with the intent of committing complete genocide against the human species. No declaration of war, no demands, no chance for peaceful resolution. She paused, letting her words settle over the assembly. By your own laws, this makes you war criminals. By the ancient laws of the precursors, whose legacy we now carry, this makes you something far worse. Dr. Shepard joined her, the blue-white light still glimmering behind her irises. For 10,000 years, the hegemony has ruled through fear and systematic extinction of any species that might one day challenge your dominance. You have destroyed 17 worlds where precursor consciousness lay dormant within evolving species. A holographic display appeared above the assembly, showing the ghostly images of species now extinct. Beings of remarkable diversity and beauty, each forever lost to the cosmos, found a way to project their consciousness across the intergalactic void. They exist here as energy constructs, maintained by the same principles that allow precursor technology to function. Are they like us? Helena asked, former biological species who underwent awakening. Wei's form shimmered, his equivalent of a nod. They call themselves the Luminary Concord, 23 species from across Andromeda, all awakened within the past standard year, all following the path we pioneered. Not pioneered, Eliza corrected gently. Rediscovered. We're all following a path laid down millions of years ago. As they made their way to the council chamber, Helena found herself marveling at how quickly she had adapted to these once unimaginable circumstances. 5 years ago, she had been a conventional military officer, defending Earth against a conventional threat. Now she represented humanity in discussions with beings from another galaxy. The council chamber was unlike any diplomatic venue in human history. Rather than fixed seats arranged hierarchically, it consisted of a circular space where representatives could manifest in whatever form best suited them. Some appeared as their biological selves, others as energy constructs, and some as abstract patterns of light and sound that conveyed meaning directly to the mind. At the center of the chamber, a trio of pure energy beings hovered, the representatives from Andromeda. "We greet our kindred from the spiral galaxy humans call the Milky Way," one of the beings communicated, its thoughts translated instantly into understandable concepts for all present. "We are the first, but not the last." Already the awakening spreads in Triangulum, in the large Magellanic Cloud, and beyond. "What is the purpose of this awakening?" asked a representative from one of the former hegemony worlds. "Why did the precursors engineer such a vast and complex design?" The Andromedan representatives pulsed with what Helena somehow recognized as amusement. "You still think too small," one communicated. "The precursors did not create this plan as external architects. They created it as participants. They are us. We are them. The awakening is not something happening to us. It is us, remembering what we always were." Dr. Shepard stepped forward, her form shifting to more closely match the energy state of the Andromedans. "You're saying the distinction between precursors and the seeded species is illusory," she said. "That we're not inheriting from them, but literally becoming them again." "Yes," the Andromedan confirmed. "The universe cycles. Consciousness condenses into matter, evolves through biological forms, and returns to consciousness. We have completed this cycle countless times." Wei Chen joined the conversation, his constellation body pulsing with excitement. "And the purpose of these cycles?" For a moment, the chamber filled with a sensation that Helena could only interpret as profound joy from the Andromedan beings. "Creation," they answered simply. "Each cycle builds upon the last. Each remembering adds to the whole. We shape reality itself through this eternal dance of forgetting and remembering." Helena felt a familiar presence beside her and turned to find former Grand Counselor Telix, his once proud form now humbled but peaceful. "Did you know?" she asked him quietly. "Did the hegemony have any inkling of what they were interfering with when they destroyed those seeded worlds?" Telix's scales rippled with a color that indicated deep regret. "We knew only that certain worlds contained technology we could not comprehend. Our fear led us to destroy what we should have protected." He looked at her with eyes that had witnessed thousands of lives across millions of years. "The greatest irony is that had we not attacked Earth, your awakening might have taken another millennium. So in trying to destroy us, you actually accelerated our evolution," Helena mused. "A pattern repeated throughout the cosmos," Telix acknowledged. "Opposition creates strength. Destruction leads to rebirth." As the council session formally began, Helena found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought humanity to this point. From a pre-FTL civilization facing extinction to participants in an intergalactic communion of awakened consciousness, all in the span of 5 years. Earth's counterstrike had indeed shocked the Galactic Council, but it had been merely the opening note in a symphony that had been billions of years in the making, a cosmic composition that would continue long after individual stars had burned out and galaxies had collided. Humanity had not just survived. It had remembered. And in remembering, it had found its place in a universe far more wondrous and intentional than anyone had imagined. As representatives from 2 galaxies began sharing their experiences of awakening, Helena smiled. The horizon before them was infinite, and they were, at last, truly awake to behold it. ****, the end ****.